It was supposed to be just another morning on the range. 20 of us young, cocky, and halfway through SEAL training, ready to tear through a timed drill we'd done a dozen times before. But when we arrived, someone was already there. An old man, sitting quietly near the bleachers, sipping from a thermos like he owned the place. No uniform, no name, just watching us like he'd seen it all before. We laughed, called him Grandpa, but by noon that day, no one was laughing, and none of us would forget what happened next. What we didn't know was that we were about to meet a ghost. Where are you watching from? Drop it in the comments and hit that subscribe button, because what I'm about to tell you will shock you how some people can surprise you. Week 6 of Bud S training at Coronado. The phase where they separate the warriors from the wannabes. We were deep into marksmanship under stress, the kind of drill where speed mattered, but precision made the difference between coming home alive or in a box. Picture this: 20 exhausted Navy SEAL candidates running on 3 hours of sleep and pure adrenaline. We'd been pushing ourselves to the breaking point for weeks: sore backs, blistered hands, sleepless nights filled with the sound of surf torture echoing in our heads. So when we stumbled onto the range that morning and saw this gray-haired man just sitting there, casual as you please, it felt completely out of place. The instructors, men who usually noticed if you breathed wrong, completely ignored him, which made us think he was probably just someone's uncle killing time, or maybe a maintenance guy waiting for his lunch break. But then something changed the entire atmosphere. He stood up, slow, deliberate movements, like he had all the time in the world, walked over to our equipment table, and without making eye contact with a single one of us, picked up a standard issue rifle from the bench. No introduction, no permission asked, just calm, steady hands wrapping around that weapon like they'd done it 10,000 times before. That's when the mood shifted. But none of us were ready for what came next. The silence was deafening. 20 cocky SEALs in training, suddenly very interested in what this mystery man was about to do. Then the first shots rang out. Pop, pop, pop. Clean, controlled, faster than any of us expected from someone who looked like he should be teaching Sunday school, not handling military-grade weapons. We stopped our own drill completely, eyes slowly drifting toward this man's silhouette. His stance was textbook perfect feet, shoulder width apart, body weight distributed exactly right. But it was his breathing that caught our attention, meditative, like he was in some kind of Zen state we'd never seen before. One of the guys whispered, "Who the hell is this guy?" The instructors still said nothing. And trust me, these were men who had opinions about everything from how you tied your boots to how you held your fork at chow. Their silence was unnerving. But we were still young, still stupid, still thought we knew everything about everything. So came the smirks, the jokes. "Betty hunts rabbits on weekends," Martinez whispered. "Probably ex-Navy clerk or something. Maybe he filed paperwork for 10 years and thinks that makes him tactical," added Johnson. We'd been hitting 70 to 80% of our targets under pressure that week. It wasn't easy. The drill simulated absolute chaos. Loud noises, flashing lights, timers counting down, instructors screaming in your ear while you tried to make precision shots. Most civilian shooters would fall apart completely. But this old man, he hit every single target. In half the time it took our best shooter. Every single one. When the smoke cleared and the targets reset, we lined up for our next round. Standard procedure. But the old man didn't leave. He stayed, still silent, still watching us with eyes that seemed to see right through our bravado. That's when things got really interesting. The instructors started setting up our competitive elimination drill, the kind where they paired us off. 1 versus 1, fastest and most accurate moves on to the next round. We lived for these competitions. Bragging rights meant everything when you're trying to prove you belong among the elite. But after the first elimination round, Chief Petty Officer Williams walked over to the scoreboard and added one more name. A name that wasn't on our roster. "Wait, he's competing?" Rodriguez asked, pointing at the mystery man who was now cleaning his rifle like he was getting ready for something serious. Chief Williams just shrugged, but there was something in his expression, something that looked almost like anticipation. "He's eligible," was all he said. The smirking stopped. Real quick. Because suddenly, this wasn't just some old guy killing time on the range. This was someone our instructors, men who'd seen combat in places we couldn't even pronounce, were treating with a respect we'd never witnessed before. But none of us had any idea what we were really dealing with. The elimination rounds continued. Good shooters were getting knocked out by better shooters. The pressure was mounting. And through it all, the mystery man just stood there, patient as death itself, waiting his turn. And then my name got called. Peterson versus the gentleman. My heart stopped. I was good, consistently ranked in the top 5 of our entire class. I'd outshot guys who'd been hunting since they could walk. I'd beaten former Marines who thought they knew everything about marksmanship. But standing there, looking across at this calm, gray-haired man who moved like water and shot like lightning, I felt something I hadn't experienced since the first day of BUDS training. Fear. Not fear of losing. Fear of being completely, utterly embarrassed in front of my brothers. We stepped up to the line. The range went dead quiet. Even the instructors stopped their constant chatter. You could hear the Pacific Ocean in the distance, waves crashing against the shore like a countdown to Judgment Day. Targets will appear at random intervals, Chief Williams announced. First shooter to miss is eliminated. Begin on my mark. 3. My palms were sweating despite the cool morning air. 2. I caught a glimpse of the old man in my peripheral vision, relaxed, like he was about to feed pigeons in a park, instead of compete against a trained military operator. 1. Mark. The first target popped up 50 yards out, center mass. I moved fast, bringing my rifle up in one smooth motion. My training kicked in, muscle memory taking over, sight alignment perfect, trigger, squeeze, clean. Crack. Dead center, perfect shot. But he moved faster. His rifle was already back to low ready while I was still following through. One fluid motion, like his rifle was part of his body. I'd never seen anything like it. Second target, 75 yards, moving left to right. I adjusted for lead time, squeezed off my shot. Close, very close. His shot was perfect. Again. By the time the third target appeared, a small silhouette at 100 yards in tricky morning light, I was already rattled. My breathing was off. My grip was too tight. I squeezed the trigger and knew immediately I'd pulled it instead of pressing straight back. Miss. He'd already lowered his rifle and was walking away before my shot even reached the target. I stood there, stunned, not angry, not even disappointed, just in awe. 20 years old, in the best shape of my life, trained by some of the finest marksmen in the world, and I'd just been schooled by someone who looked like he should be playing chess in the park. That's when everything changed. Chief Williams stepped forward, and for the first time all day, he spoke directly to the mystery man. "You boys ever hear of Ghost 6? A few heads nodded slowly. We'd all heard whispers, rumors, stories passed down through the teams like modern folklore. A legend. Some Black Ops sniper from classified missions back in the early 80s, the guy who could supposedly make impossible shots from impossible distances. The Phantom who'd saved entire units without them ever knowing he was there. Supposedly, most of you probably think he's a myth," Chief continued, his voice carrying a weight I'd never heard before. "Some story the old-timers made up to mess with the new guys." 20 pairs of eyes shifted back to the calm, unassuming man who was now field stripping his rifle with movements so practiced they looked choreographed. Except he wasn't a myth. He was standing right in front of us. The range felt so quiet you could hear individual grains of sand shifting in the wind. Ghost 6, the legend. The Phantom sniper, whose confirmed kills were classified so far above our clearance level that even asking about them could end careers. And we'd called him Grandpa. Oh, we were about to learn some humility. The man finally spoke. His voice was like gravel mixed with whiskey, rough from years of tactical communications and probably more cigarettes than was wise. "Y'all are good, real good. Better than most who'll never make it past week 8. He paused, looking each of us in the eye. Not intimidating, just measuring. But real good ain't good enough when bullets are flying both ways and your brothers are counting on you to bring them home. And just like that, 20 cocky future SEALs became 20 students. What happened next was unlike anything in our training up to that point. No screaming, no punishment push-ups, no mind games designed to break us down. Instead, Ghost 6 became our teacher. He stayed the rest of the afternoon not competing anymore, but coaching. Really coaching. He moved between us like a master craftsman working with apprentices, making small adjustments that yielded massive improvements. Your grip's too tight, son. Rifle's a precision instrument, not a club. Hold her like you're holding something precious. Breathing's all wrong. You're trying to time your shots between heartbeats, but you're thinking too much. Feel the rhythm instead. Stop jerking that trigger like you're angry at it. Press straight back, smooth and steady, like you're squeezing water from a sponge. One by one, every guy who had scoffed at him earlier started hitting shots they'd never made before. Not because our equipment got better, not because the targets got easier. Because Ghost 6 was showing us the difference between shooting and marksmanship. And slowly, the stories came out. Not from him, he remained humble to a fault, but from the instructors who'd been watching this impromptu masterclass with something approaching reverence. Confirmed kills in places that didn't officially exist. 3 different branches of military begging him to train their snipers. Operations so classified that the after-action reports were burned instead of filed. But here's what got to us. None of it was online. No Wikipedia page, no books written about his exploits, no medals hanging on his wall at home. Just scars, and a reputation that meant something to the men who'd survived because of him. Rodriguez, who'd been one of the loudest jokers that morning, finally worked up the courage to ask the question we were all thinking. "Sir, why did you come here today?" Ghost 6 looked up from the rifle he was cleaning, a ritual so ingrained it was probably muscle memory at this point. "Same reason you boys are here, to see who's got what it takes." But there was more to it than that. There always is with legends. "Been watching your class for a few weeks now. Y'all got the skills, got the heart, but you're missing something." "What's that, sir?" His eyes swept across all of us, and for a moment I swear I could see every mission he'd ever been on reflected in them. Respect for the weapon, for the craft, for the responsibility that comes with being able to take a life from 1,000 yards away. That hit different. We weren't just learning to shoot. We were learning to carry the weight of what those skills might require us to do, the lives that might depend on our precision when everything was falling apart around us. And Ghost 6 had been carrying that weight longer than most of us had been alive. The sun was beginning to set over the Pacific when Ghost 6 finally packed up his gear. The same methodical, unhurried movements we'd watched all day. No ceremony, no grand farewell speech. Just the quiet professionalism of a man who'd said what needed saying. He left the way he came, silent as smoke. No goodbye, no handshakes, no contact information. Just a nod, the kind of nod that says, "You're not there yet, but you could be if you keep working, if you stay humble, if you remember that there's always more to learn." And that nod meant more than any medal ever could. For the next week, something was different on the range. We shot better, thought clearer, moved with more purpose. Not because we were suddenly stronger or faster, not because our equipment had improved or our techniques had been revolutionized. Because we'd seen the difference between good and great, between cocky and capable. Because Ghost 6 had shown us what mastery actually looked like, not the flashy, show-off kind of skill that gets you noticed. The quiet, deadly kind that keeps your teammates alive when everything goes sideways. I think about that day often, especially now, years later, when I'm working with younger operators who remind me of who we used to be. Cocky, convinced we knew everything, certain our natural talent was enough. About how we nearly laughed off the lesson of a lifetime because it came in a package we didn't expect. About how many other Ghost 6s are out there, watching quietly from the sidelines, carrying knowledge that could save lives if we were just smart enough to recognize it, and humble enough to listen. There's always someone watching, someone who's already walked the path we're just stepping onto, someone who's faced the demons we haven't met yet and lived to tell about it. Sometimes they teach you everything you need to know without ever saying a word. But when they do speak, when they offer to share even a fraction of what they've learned through blood, sweat, and sleepless nights, you better be listening. That man never came back to the range. We don't even know his real name. But every one of us who was there that day remembers his eyes, his silence, and the sound of those perfect shots echoing across the range like thunder. Not every hero wears a cape. Some wear worn-out boots and sip coffee from a dented thermos. And if you're lucky enough to meet one, if life puts a ghost six in your path when you need them most, listen. If this story hits something deep, subscribe and hit that notification bell. Because out there, in every corner of this world, are hundreds more like him. Quiet professionals carrying stories that need to be told. And we're going to tell their stories next. What's your ghost sick story? Drop it in the comments below.